Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about BATSA and finances. But before I start that, I do want to talk a little bit about some of my past videos. For those of you who have watched my Chinese metaphysics and health videos, you know I'm pretty critical about that type of an application. And largely it's because reality and what the BATSA predicts don't line up. Uh, the Batsa, you have an 80% chance of having an animal sign that uh, gives you a bigger chance of having cancer. But in reality, heart disease and cardiovascular disease in general kill over twice as many people. And you know, 30, 40 years ago, it was over 3 times as many people. So we have gotten a little better at treating heart disease than we have at cancer, but still, heart disease kills many, many more people. And most people, I mean, there's not 80% of the people do not get cancer. And even though that's what the BATSA basically predicts, you have a pretty high risk of getting cancer if you have at least one of those animal signs. And so, it just doesn't jive with reality. Also, it depends on which analysis you use to determine your elemental analysis. But according to Joey Yap's elemental analysis, I should already be dead. So it makes it really hard for me to believe this. And the others predict different things. But, you just don't know who to look at when you're looking at the elemental analysis. Who's right? Well, obviously Joey Yap is not right, but I don't really believe the other either because it says I will, won't have any real problems till I'm 103. I very much doubt that will be the case, but you know, I can keep my fingers crossed, but I don't think it'll happen. Now, we do know with the research, the scientific research we're doing nowadays, we do know that many health conditions have clear genetic links. And the BATSA cannot tell you about your genetics because it's based on your parents' genes. What time you were born has nothing to do with what your genes are. Uh, Perhaps what time you were conceived might, but I mean, we go down to the hour in BATSA, even the day. And there is no, if you look from one day to the next, the BATSA can be quite different, even between 1 hour and the next. So we know that there isn't a fixed time between the time of conception and the time of birth. It's within a window, but it's only within a window. And so it doesn't make sense to think your genes depend on when you were born. It depends on who your parents are. Now, when it comes to finances, it's a little bit different. A person's attitude towards money has a lot more to do with personality. And even within the same family, you can see different people, different siblings have very different views on money. And it has to do with their general personality. They're also usually quite different personality-wise. And of course, Batsa is a lot more predictable when it comes to your personality. So I do think that Batsa has a much better chance of predicting your financial well-being than it does your health well-being. I am attempting to look at these different, some people who have already passed through this 6 luck pillar. There's not too many of them yet. I mean, most people are either okay by this stage or, they're not in a situation where they can afford to have an analysis done, if it was a bad luck pillar for them. And so I I haven't had a chance to look at a ton of different ones, but the ones I have been able to look at, there it does seem to bear out fairly well. Now, I'm sure that you've probably heard about this in some places. I might have talked about it, I'm not sure, but your 6 luck pillar is one of your most important luck pillars. And this will start when most people are in their 50s. It could be any time between 50, maybe 51 and 60, kind of in that range. uh, and it's usually somewhere in that window. And the reason is the six luck pillar for everybody, absolutely everybody, the animal sign in that six luck pillar clashes with their month animal sign. That's, I think, how they actually set it up. Now, exactly what year you will enter your six luck pillar, that I don't understand, but I think this is how they actually set up the animals. Sometimes the animal signs will go in a forward direction, that is, as you get older, the next animal is the normal animal pattern. Sometimes it's backwards, but it's still in that same pattern. Uh, and so I do understand at least that idea of how that is done. Now, everybody's month pillar has to do with career, and that's why your six luck pillar is so important. And this, most people are still working in their six luck pillar. They're nearing the end of their career. They tend to be fairly well paid going into it because they are, they've been in that job for a while. Sometimes that's not true, but oftentimes it is. So this can be quite challenging. Now, there are signs to look at within your own luck pillar that can indicate whether this is going to be an easier luck pillar or a tougher luck pillar. And they're each a decade long, so this can really have an effect on your future. Now, everybody's six luck pillar is going to cause them some degree of problems because it's clashing with their monthly pillar, unless they don't work, and then they're lucky because they don't have to work. But if they do need to find that they do need to work at some point in time during that period, they're going to have a very tough time, usually, uh, because they haven't been working. So they don't have a good track record. So this can be very tough, or it can be marginally problematic. That is, the problems you have will be relatively small and you can fix them. You can figure it out, and and you actually gain by doing that. Now, basically everybody is going to have some sort of challenge. And if you find that you're going to face significant challenges, that you don't have any of the signs that indicate it's going to be an easier time, then what you need to do is prepare in the previous decades by saving money, investing wisely. This basically means you have to distinguish very clearly between wants and needs, and you have to cut back on your wants. Your needs aren't going to change a lot. I mean, unless you're unlucky and get ill and don't have health insurance. Uh, your needs pretty much mean like a roof over your head, food on the table. Those are your needs. Your wants are much broader, and you just have to learn to control your wants. Now, you can also look at the annual elemental distribution in your particular Batsa chart to improve your financial outcome every year. And so there's a different focus depending on what the elemental distribution is for a given year. So you may do different activities during different years. That's what it amounts to. Now, the easiest place to see your annual distribution is from the free Joey Yap Batsa app. And you look at the bottom of the second page on the left-hand side, there's something called structures. To me, it looks like a spider web. And there's two different shaded areas. You're going to be looking for the one that says annual, and it'll have there's a little label that will tell you which one's which, but right now it's in purple. He could change at any point in time. Can't guarantee it'll stay the same, but right now it's in purple. Now, here what you do is you look in that annual chart and you see which one of the structures, that is, which element is the highest value. And it has the element there. It also has a label that has to do with it has to do with how it is related to your day master. So one of the labels on his thing will say wealth, Now, this is the element that your day master controls. And this, if this is the highest, you want to delegate some of the mundane tasks, maybe something you normally do to save a little money. So this could be like, for example, have somebody else do your taxes, or maybe somebody else to do your accounting if you're in business. And this is so you can concentrate on more important topics, such as gaining leadership skills, maybe becoming more streamlined in your business if that's what you're doing, or just in the way you do your job so that you become more productive. So this is ways to really improve your life in the long run. And if your wealth is the highest, you're going to have a better chance this year of making real gains here. Now, output is the highest. You want to look for problems, which is super easy, but you need to create the solutions. And that's the real hard part. So you have to spend time basically creating solutions. Now, if you've been thinking about a problem for several years and your output in a certain year is very high, this is the year you really want to try to tackle that problem because you're going to have a much better chance of finding a solution. But you can also do a whole new problem if you want to. I mean, there's no cut and dried method here. Uh, Usually, problems that are hard to solve, other people can't solve either. And if you can, you'll do much better. So I basically say, stick with the problem you've been looking at because you understand it quite well. Now, if companion is your highest, you want to focus on marketing, and that includes marketing yourself. So you need to stop being cautious about your talents. You have to basically brag a little bit, and that will help you become more noticed, which helps your career in the long run. This also could be a time to collaborate with others. It's not really a time to create a partnership because that's going to depend more on your natal chart than your annual chart. But it's a great time to collaborate with somebody at least for a year. Sometimes it can go longer. It depends on the person. Now, if influence is your highest, you want to use existing platforms. And this is to get your message out. So, uh, you know, you could do anything. I mean, there's a lot of social media stars these days, and usually go through these types of platforms that already exist. You certainly don't want to create your own platform because you'll probably not get it done in a year because this is annual again. So just use what you have available, and I think these are free, or at least most of them are free. So you can use any one of those. And there are others, of course. I don't know them all. I know very few of them, in fact, since I don't have a smartphone. Now, if resources is your highest one for a given year, this is the year when you want to start monetizing your knowledge and skills. Now, this could be either by starting your own business, or it could be by going to your boss and saying, "Look, I have these other skills, you're not using them. You know, I could do this job. You're looking for somebody in this job. Let me prove I can do it." And then it will get you a promotion and more pay, this kind of thing. You want to monetize all the skills you have. And of course, this means that you gain these skills and this knowledge previous to this. You have to already have this to use it in a given year. Now, even if your six luck pillar turns out to be good, it'll be smooth and you'll do okay by the standards here. This is still a good thing to use regardless of what stage, what luck pillar you're in. Even in your six luck pillar, this is a good recommendation to use every single year. Now, I also want you to look at your natal chart because this tells you what your like forever skills are. So in general, if again, this will be in the different color. It is usually kind of a tan or a beige, a yellowish brown color. That's what it looks like currently. Again, he could change it at any point, but he does have a label that will tell you which is which. And this is, of course, talking about the Joy Yap chart. Now, if your wealth is the highest, you want to try to improve your leadership skills. Now, the real key in being a good leader is being able to balance different needs of different parts of the business or whatever you're involved in. Same thing with families. I mean, there's different kids have different needs. Your partner has different needs. To be a good leader, you have to be able to balance that all. And that's a real skill. And a lot of people don't have that skill. Now, the second thing, if you have a highest level of output, you want to look for problems. Like I said, is easy. But here you want to create solutions. And the key is, since this is a permanent thing, you have to spend time creating solutions. You actually have to put effort into this. You're more likely to be able to come up with good solutions, but you can't jump around from idea to idea. You have to stick with one thing long enough to be able to create a solution before you go on to the next thing. Unless you're super lucky and you're the idea guy in a company and everybody else runs with your ideas and they create the solutions and come back to you with more problems and you help them again, that kind of thing. That's really rare. So in general, you're the one who has to actually create the solution. Now, if it's companion, you want to focus on helping people. So if your companion is highest, lots of times these people make good psychologists because they're good with people. But also just in general, they're good with collaboration. Now, if influence is the highest, you want to improve your ability to motivate others. So basically, that's mostly through speech, sometimes through action, but the message is important. It has to be a message that helps others, not just you, but helps others. And you must be able to be articulate, and that's not just in how you speak, but what words you choose to use. And if you can be, and that will help you be clearer, of course, and also your message will come out clear, and people will see how it helps them, and so then you gain influence. So and you motivate others to use their skills that they do have to better their own lives. So this is a pretty important one if you happen to have this high. Now, resources, if this is your highest, you focus on learning, becoming an expert in something, this will allow you to uh, use your native talents the best. You just become the expert. Now, if your natal level is above 60% to about 90%, this is considered strong. Of course, 60 is on the lower side, 90 is on the higher side, but it's still in the healthy range. You can be too high in any one of these things. And this is as important to know whether or not you're high or low, is can you be too high? Too high can become a problem. 95% is borderline, 100% is very often a problem. Not always, but quite often a problem. And so, but there are ways to deal with this. You have to be a bit more disciplined if you do have 100% of anything. Now, if you're 100% with your wealth, you tend to be quite bossy and up to the point of being a control freak. And so people don't really like working with you because they can't handle, first off, they can't read your mind. And they'll do something and you'll get very upset. And then they just say, you know, this person is not worth working for. So what you have to learn if you have 100% here is you need to learn to be a little more zen and let people do their job well. Trust people to be able to do the job that you've hired them to do. Because you're very likely to be the boss if you have 100%, at least once you've been in business for a while. You're probably not going to start out as the boss unless you're really lucky. Now, if you're 100% output, you have tons and tons of fantastic ideas, but you never stick with one long enough to create a solution. So in the end, you get nothing done. And that's really a shame because you've got some really good ideas for the solutions. You just never get them fleshed out enough that you can actually finish the job. So that's basically being too flighty, just switching too often. Here, you need more discipline to stick with finishing one job before you start the next. And this can be quite difficult for people with 100% output. Their mind is working way ahead of everybody else's. Now, if your companion is 100%, you tend to be too clingy. And and that means you will stick with people who abuse you. Maybe not physically abuse you, but mentally, emotionally, this kind of thing. They will be um, they will be you will be too afraid to break it off with them because you're afraid of losing friends. And so so if this is 100%, you want to learn to be on your own a bit better, and you want to learn to appreciate yourself more so that you don't have to have others reflect good things about you. You do that yourself. And so you feel more complete in and of yourself without anybody on the outside. That will really help this if, again, you're at 100%. Now, even at 95%, influence can be a real problem. And most good parents can see this in a child and will help um, stop this from happening so much. But you might not have had good parents. Uh, and the problem is you will become too manipulative. Everything you do will only be to help yourself. And everybody will see this at a certain point in time. And you end up usually being quite lonely because everybody doesn't trust what you say because they know you're only in it for yourself. So if this is the case, if you're at 100% influence, you need to gain some empathy. You need to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and say, okay, if I'm going to do this, how would I feel if somebody were to do that to me? I mean, that's basically what empathy is. You have to increase that. You may also have to increase the level of your moral code, your internal moral code, and be a little bit more caring about others and not just yourself. Now, if resources is your highest level, 100%, not the highest, but the 100%, you can easily become delusional. And this is because you think a lot and you may have gotten this whole story in your head that explains a problem out in the world, but you never bother to look at reality. So your idea of what the problem is may have nothing to do with what the problem really is. And that's delusion. So the key here is that you have to keep checking with reality. Now, if you have 100% resources, that means you have the ability to think logically and you have the ability to look at data, that is check with reality. And that's what you have to do is you really have to keep checking with reality. And you have to accept that sometime an idea that you're sure about is wrong, and that can be very hard for people with 100% resources. So this is you just basically have to learn to admit you're wrong sometimes. That will help. And there are a lot of people who don't want to do that. So that's kind of sad. Now, if you have both very high resources and influence, you can become a very dangerous person for society, depending on what your life circumstances, what position that puts you in. So, this is something you can maybe look at somebody else's charts too and see what's going on. Of course, to really do it well, you do have to have the hour of birth, which is usually quite hard to find. And most people don't even know when they were born. They do know the day, but that's about it. So let's go back to the tricky six luck pillar because I talked about how you're going to take your strengths and get you in the best situation before you enter your six luck pillar. But some of you may only be a short while away from this. Now, I've already passed this luck pillar, so I guess you could say I'm lucky. I survived it. But one thing to look for is you want to see if in the luck pillar, in either the heaven stem, which is the top row, or the hidden stem, which is the third row, do you have a DW or IW listed there? In the Joey Yap thing, it will have the Chinese, but it will also have these one or two um, uh, abbreviated letters that tell you this. This is direct wealth, this is indirect wealth. If you have one of those, you are very likely to come out better at the end of your six luck pillar than when you started, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a smooth road. You could have some big ups and downs in this time. But usually at the end, if you're tough, you'll make it through and you'll be better off. If you have the DW, most of the increase will come through working for others, that is, through a career, and gaining new skills or putting new skills to use to offer your employer. So they will see that, yes, you have things they need and they pay you more. If you have IW, most of the increase is likely to come from starting your own business. Now, if you're already employed, I wouldn't say, even if you have an IW, don't quit your job. Start this as a side gig. But you still have to take some calculated risks um, because you are going to be spending a fair amount of time on your business. I speak from personal experience. You will find that you spend a lot of time on this. Um, and that may cut into some of the extra time you might have put in for your employer. So you do have to take some risks that maybe you're not going to make many advances in your career, but if if it if you start it as a side gig and it turns out to be good, then you can keep running with it. And at some point you may quit your job if you're making enough money on what was your side gig. You just have to take the risk. And even there it can go up and down. So there is there is risk in both cases. Now, this has to do with the smoothness. So this has to do with what you're going to end up with at the end. This has to do with how smooth it is throughout the whole luck pillar, throughout that whole decade. So again, you're going to be looking at your natal structure. Make sure it's your natal structure, that spiderweb looking thing. And you want to see which element is the weakest non-zero element. You may have a zero element, you ignore that. It has to be non-zero. And it's going to be one of the five elements. And we don't worry about polarity here. That is where there's yin or yang. And in the structures, there is no yin or yang. But once you find that, then you want to look in the heaven and hidden stems of that sixth luck pillar, and you want to see whether the element is there. It doesn't matter whether it's yin or yang of that element, as long as the element is there, you are going to face less challenges than someone without that element. So this this actually has it does seem to these two things do seem to have some uh, reality associated with them. That is, whether or not you keep your job throughout this whole period basically does seem to have something to do, especially with this last bit here. Now, I'll give you an example just so that it's clear about this. This is the natal chart. It is a facsimile of my chart. So I don't have to gain permission because I give myself permission to use it. And and of course, the what you will see on Joey App's chart is much more complicated, but I am just focusing on the element. Now, which element will be in which position, like which element is on the top, has to do with your day master. So your may not say earth on the top, but it'll tell you a certain element, and it will also tell you its relationship. In this case, I think it's always the wealth is always on top. And again, since my day master is wood, my wood controls earth, so earth is my wealth element. So uh, that's how it works. Anyway, I look at my gray or my tan area and I look which is the smallest. That's really obviously fire. So I want to look at my six luck pillar and see whether in the heaven or the hidden stems do I have any fire. Doesn't matter which, it's either yin or yang fire. Either one is good. This is my sixth luck pillar. And right here, I have yin fire. So, and if you have that, it's good. That is, your sixth luck pillar will be relatively smooth. Now, if you went into the luck pillar without a job, you will, let's say your family, whatever, you'll still come out okay. You may even be able to get a job, but if you really need one, but it's much harder to get a job if you go into this luck pillar without a job. So that makes sense. Now, in the Joey Yap thing, it will tell you here below or beside each one of these, what is the whether or not you have the DW or IW. It could be friend, it could be an F, it could be a whole bunch of different ones. I just simplified this because there's so much going on. But in the Joey app thing, it will tell you which element it is also. Here it will list just the element by this, and then there'll be a plus or minus. Plus means it's yang, minus means the yin, but you don't care about that right now. You just want to know if you were me, whether or not there's fire there. And there is. Now, in reality, I actually quit my career at the first few years into my fifth luck pillar, um, because I had reached my goal and it was time for me to move on because I have many interests, maybe too many, but uh, then uh, then unfortunately I got injured and it took um, about 7 years to recover from that injury to a point where I could work again. But then we basically moved to Hong Kong. And I don't speak Cantonese, so I didn't expect to find a job, didn't even look for one. And while I was in Hong Kong, I entered my sixth luck pillar. Now, I had no job offers during that sixth luck pillar, but I didn't really look for a job when I was in Hong Kong. As I said, don't I still don't speak Cantonese well. We were only there about a year and a half, and I didn't speak as a child till I was almost 3, so I don't pick up languages like many other people can. I can shop in Hong Kong still, and I can get the gist of a conversation if it goes on for 5-10 minutes, but I can't hold a conversation at all, not in the least. So, um, so I'm sort of that halfway point. I would need a few more years in Hong Kong to be able to speak Cantonese. And that doesn't look like it's going to happen. Now, before and after my six luck pillar, I had unsolicited jobs. The ones before that, I was still dealing with the injury, and I just didn't think it was fair because these were entry level jobs because I had a new career. And after, it wasn't clear what kind of job, but I was within weeks of starting this company, and I'd done so much preparation. I just decided I'd rather do that than start at an entry level again. And all of these jobs actually came from former instructors that I'd had in my career in interior design and architecture. So, and that's because they saw that I had some talents that other students didn't. And after being a couple years in this, yeah, I do have some talents in design that uh, even people who are interested in it don't seem to have. So, uh, and I just think I'm lucky that I do. Now, there's also one last thing to consider. The period in which we all are living in, when you reach your sixth luck pillar, does interact with your batsa. In fact, the current period we're living in interacts with everybody's batsa, despite what luck pillar you're in. And in period 9, those with sin, which is the yin metal, in their batsa, not in the luck pillars, but in the batsa, the 8 characters at the top. Uh, and that also includes your hidden and heaven stems. You usually have a nobleman to help you during period 9, at least some part of period 9. Now, there are two types of noble people. There are some noble people who are very helpful, who tell you what you need to know, and you appreciate them immediately. Then there's a type of noble person who is quite tough on you. They tell you a bit of what you need to know, but they want you to learn this on your own. So they're usually quite tough, and you might not be very happy with them while you're working with them. And these are often bosses. Uh, but when you look back on it years later, you realize this person changed your life and made it better because they taught you things you needed to know. It's not so pleasant going through it, but in the end, you'll be very happy. You'll be glad you had this experience. Although, like again, you may have hated it while you were living it. Now, other thing you can look at is, do you have both the dog and the tiger in your batsa? Again, not in your luck pillars, but in your batsa. If that's true, you're going to benefit strongly in period 9. And this is, again, true regardless of what luck pillar you're in. So is this. Both of these statements are true regardless of the luck pillar you're currently in your chart. Now, you must have both the tiger and the dog, not just one. You need them both. And it has to be in your natal batsa, the characters at the top, of the analysis. Now, you still need to work hard, but your efforts will be rewarded at a higher level than those without these two animal signs. So if you had another person you were competing with and you had these and they didn't, and you both started with the same level, basically you're equal in your knowledge, and let's say you're both competing against for a same promotion, for some reason, even if you were to turn in the same quality of work, your bosses are going to like your work better than the other person's. Just, I mean, it may feel like luck, and kind of that's what it is. Uh, but you will get the promotion over the other person if they don't have both the tiger and the dog. Now, of course, if you don't put in effort and the other person does, the other person will get the job. So you can't just like glide through. You do have to work, but whatever effort you put in gets rewarded better. And here's the reason why. Now, there's something called the three harmony, and it has to do with this equilateral triangle. We have the horse, the dog, the tiger. These are all equally spaced on the 24 mountain ring. And the Li Gua is the fire Gua, which is in the south. It's associated with the horse because this is the animal sign located here. And so in the equilateral triangle, you have dog and tiger. So this is that three harmony that's created. And this means if you have both of those, you are in sync with period 9 because period 9 gives you the horse. Now, if you have horse, tiger, and dog in your chart, you already have the three harmony in your chart. And in general, you're good almost any time, but you'll be particularly good in period 9. Now, I'll talk just a little bit about period 1. Now, period 1, it's associated with the Kangwa in the north, associated with the rat. And so you have this, again, three harmony combo, and that's with the dragon and the monkey. So if you have both the dragon and and the monkey in your natal chart, it has to be there, then you're in sync with period 1. Of course, that's still a little over 20 years away, but just to let you guys know, and especially if you have kids, because of course people under 20 will likely benefit the most from period 1. But again, they must have both the dragon and the monkey in their natal Batsa chart. So it depends, whether you're lucky or not. And that's the time you were born. You don't really get to choose that. So it is what it is. But again, there are all these different ways to look at it. All these different possibilities of being able to survive your sixth luck pillar. If you have nothing, just know that you're going to have to be really careful with your money and save as much as you can, because when you hit your sixth luck pillar, it may be a very challenging decade. But if you have savings, you can survive it without like losing your house and all this kind of stuff. But you have to be tough. You really have to be tough. So that's basically it. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact me here if you have questions or leave a comment. And and I hope that you enjoyed this. I do think that BATSA does work better for finance than it did for health because it has to do with personality. So that's basically it. Again, I'd like to thank you for watching.